Introduce yourselves and tell me what you're doing.
My name is Dan Strauss. For 20 years, I was the CEO of Hometown Pharmacies in Wisconsin, 65 locations that took care of patients. And after 20 years, we started realizing that we need to get more involved to help the patients be heard. And so we formed Patient Protector, which we'll share more with you in a little bit.
Amazing.
My name is Sean Casey. I'm a registered dietitian, movement coach, proactive health advocate. Love working with fellow proactive health people, focus on how we can get people healthy, active, and moving well.
Beautiful.
And I am Nilsa, Julie Baak's friend. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am a patient advocate and a practice administrator at the Milwaukee Rheumatology Center.
Great. Appreciate you guys coming down here. I know that you flew and you guys drove, and I love that we were all able to meet each other and bond over a common enemy, which is the pharmacy benefit managers, specifically this week, Express Scripts. So Dan, tell me what Patient Protector is and what you guys are doing.
So Patient Protector is meant to accomplish a number of goals. As we all know, discussing PBM is a very complex issue. And when we try to explain it to patients, it's very hard to do in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So how do we help? So Patient Protector is a reservoir of information to help people understand what PBMs are and what they do in multiple forms, so that way they can kind of call it a drip irrigation, be able to kind of learn at whatever pace, and that it's not just a unique situation. It's going across the country and affects almost everybody to some level.
Okay, so for people that don't really understand what a PBM is, that's a pharmacy benefit manager. Okay, there's 3 big PBMs in the United States. So you've got your Express Scripts, you've got your Optum Rx, and you've got your CVS Specialty. Those are the 3, all right? So I like to, when I talk about PBMs, I like to try to make it like anybody can understand this. So if I was to tell you, what's the name of a grocery store in Wisconsin?
That would be Pick and Save.
Okay,
example.
Pick and Save. If your employer said to you, hey, you know what? You have to go to this high-end boutique grocery store in Wisconsin. You can't go to Pick and Save anymore because all of your groceries have to come from this very expensive one, and I don't really care that you have to drive far for it. We're gonna just mail you your groceries. You don't get to price shop for milk, eggs, cheese, bread. You have to use the most expensive one.
I would be very upset.
I'm working here in Bridgeton, and I love Aldi. Aldi has the best produce and the best prices, but this is how PBMs work. It would be like them telling me I can only shop at Straub's, which is the most expensive boutique place. That's how I see PBMs. How do you see a PBM?
That's fair. A lot of self-dealing. So patients no longer have choice, especially with care. So a 30-year relationship with a local pharmacist that they've really come to know and trust, all of a sudden one day they get a letter in the mail that says you cannot go there anymore. You have to travel 45 miles to go to our pharmacy, and we're going to overcharge you.
Right. Okay. How do you see PBMs?
Awful.
Okay, but
They
like I
delay.
love the idea to each of us define it because it's different things to different people.
They delay, they deny my patients' treatments. My patients get sicker and they get more expensive care when the PBMs dictate what they need to be on, when they need to be on, how much it's going to cost them, and so forth.
Okay, I love that.
I see them as the big bullies on the street, forcing people to go one way versus the other rather than having the free choice to pick what they think is going to be the best option for them.
Okay, I like that. It's kind of like a mafia,
Absolutely.
right? So tell us about like the Express Scripts and the TRICARE situation. How does that play into each other?
So military, is a special part of our country that we all want to support. And they're a separate part of our economy, and the U.S. Military then negotiates on our behalf, and TRICARE is the entity that works on behalf of military veterans. They chose Express Scripts as their PBM. Express Scripts wanted to be able to have all those folks have to go to one spot, preferably their own mail order. So there's roughly 60,000 pharmacies across the country when you include all the chains and independents. Last year, in one day alone, they wiped out 15,000. So it's 15,000 different locations that your military veterans that used to go to no longer can. and forced into mail order, which of course there's a lack of care. And then the mail order has so many other issues. We have laws and regulations that the humidity and the climate controlled for our medications has to be very strict guidelines, because this is chemistry you're putting in your body. So mail order, it can literally come out of a desert, go across 5 different states, being a mail service carrier at 115 degrees, and it may or may not get there on time. And we know certainly many times it's actually impacted that can harm the patient. And today's protest was an example of that, because Loretta's son was negatively impacted because of just that type of situation.
And I've had patients complain that their medication doesn't ever arrive. For whatever reason, it goes to their neighbor's house and then their dog eats it. Or it has arrived and it's literally melted. So that really does change the chemistry of the active component that your doctor thinks you're taking.
Or arrives late, and
Oh.
then they blame the delivery people, UPS, FedEx.
Well, I don't know that UPS isn't without a dog in the fight, because they mandate to a pharmacy benefit manager.
I know that very, very,
Yes, you
very
do.
well.
Yes, you do. And
Yes.
we actually have a nice little letter from the CSRO
Yeah.
showing Carol Tome, who happens to be the CEO of UPS, that she's overpaying for vials of Remicade to the tune of like $30,000 for one patient for one treatment.
Yeah.
So like, why would you think UPS would have a mandate? Do you think it has anything to do that there's someone on the board of directors that is on a PBM? I don't know.
I grew up in the country, and we were always told if it looks like a skunk, smells like a skunk, and walks like a skunk, it's probably a skunk.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I would like to think that they're not reading their own plan document, just like many other self-funded employers out there.
Right. Well, nobody reads a plan document but
Right.
you.
But me.
Okay.
I do.
So,
And the stuff that I find in there is unbelievable.
it's unbelievable because there's no fiduciary responsibility, but I
That's
think
right.
that's gonna start changing. But let's go back to Patient Protector. What does it do and how do patients access it?
So Patient Protector, we want to do at least 5 distinct items to benefit the patient. One is the education component, to be able to learn what does it actually mean. 2, we want to have a patient portal for them to upload their stories to be heard. We have so many patients says, I'm upset, I feel like I've been wronged, I don't know where to complain. And so to be able to help them be heard, and then also to be heard and organized. Because so often, if it's just one voice, it can get lost in the shuffle. Where if there's 10,000 folks that says, I'm having this issue, now legislators can also look at the site and say, wow, this many people are getting impacted on a daily basis. Third, PBMs have their own song and dance. They've been singing to the legislators for the last 7 years. We know it's tired, and quite frankly, it's always full of misdirection. We believe flat out lies. We want to be able to have the documentation. This is misdirection. This is flat out lies, because here are the facts around this. So don't be buffaloed. Fourth, we're going to have a legislative scorecard. Excuse me. So in Wisconsin, we're going to have 133 legislators. And if legislator Jane Doe is for it, she's going to be in green. If legislator John Doe is against it, he's going to be in red with his contact information. So patients can say, hey, Mr. Doe, why aren't you for this? And if he says, I'm not even aware, no problem. Go to the Patient Protector, learn about PBMs. If legislator John Doe says, well, PBM saves a whole bunch of money, go to the website, here's proof that they don't. Hey, if we enact this bill, we're going to get hurt. No, look at West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, again and again, made these legislative changes, and they actually saved money. So we give the facts, we have a reservoir of the truth. And then last but not least, we believe that they're the biggest perpetrators of fraud, waste, and abuse in our healthcare system by mandatory mail order. We've been told instances where a patient gets a med for 15, 18, 24 months straight, telling I don't no longer need this, I'm no longer prescribed it, but the mail order keeps on being sent, ringing up the till for the PBM, and then leaving that medication on the counter for all kinds of negative things to happen, including getting it in the wrong hands. And then you have to have the drug take back. So we want it to be a reservoir of the truth and for folks to be heard.
I love that.
Patient driven.
patient
Patient-driven.
driven.
It's all
Well,
patient driven.
and that's so
So when
important.
he says we are organizing it, but this is all patient driven.
And it's important that it be patient driven, as we've learned from our friend Warris,
Mm-hmm.
because they have a contractual relationship with the patient. They could give a rat's behind what the doctor wants. They could
That's right.
probably care less what the pharmacist wants or says.
We are simply independent contractors. Physicians' offices are simply independent contractors. The patients are their members. They listen better to patients than when they listen to us.
Right, right, and that's really come up clear because of the needles we've been able to move
Yes.
with the patient appeal, the
That's right.
patient grievance.
Mhm.
Like, there is a documented paper trail that if you're gonna uphold this, you owe me every part of my file, including the recordings of all the calls on the case.
That's right.
And that has to be submitted to the patient if they uphold the denial within 30 days.
Mhm.
And if they don't submit it within 30 days, the patient can file in small claims court for $109 a day for every day that it's late.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well,
We need more people to know that.
Yeah.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. And you know what? We're gonna tell them. We're going to tell the
Yes.
story because the story is compelling and the story is every one of us are a patient.
Mhm.
And there's only 3 PBMs that are making life hard on everyone. The people doing the work, the patients, and the taxpayers. So this is a story that needs to come out. How do patients access on your website? Is it live? It's ready to go?
It is.
Okay,
It'll be upgraded on a daily, monthly basis. The legislative scorecards are coming shortly, as well as retaliation. We know that both patients and pharmacists and physicians have all had cases of PBM retaliation. And so we want to make sure that those folks are protected or at least highlighted that this occurs every day. So when mentioned there are bullies, that is absolutely correct. Are you familiar with gag clauses?
yes, but tell the people about a gag clause, because I don't have that at the physician office, at least not yet. I'm sure it's coming in my contract.
Yeah.
Someone would love to gag me.
So a patient comes in and their copay, let's say it's $50, and it's a med that our cash price might be $20, because the PBM won't tell the patient this, but they're going to charge $50 copay. They're going to pocket $30. So if we tell the patient just pay me cash $20, we are in violation of a gag clause, and we can get kicked out of network, and they take all our patients away. Now, if patients ask us, now this is actually a federal law now, and in many cases a state law, I'm here to say that it basically still gets bullied almost on a daily basis.
Wow.
I was in a pharmacy one day where literally the PBM called why the patient was across the counter from our pharmacist, being told, don't do this, pay the $50 copay, and we immediately got a letter saying if you ever do that again, you're getting kicked out of network.
Wow.
So we see time and time again, and like especially in Oklahoma, here's a law, they break it, they get sued, they don't care, they continue. And any other area of our society that would be, probably put in jail. But here's a case where state after state, they're getting hurt for literally tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. I think Ohio was like 287 million, West Virginia, on and on. So they've become so big and so powerful. I think combined they have 1.2 trillion worth of sales, and the net profit on a quarterly basis is in the tens of billions. And I bring that up because, put that in a frame of reference. The big three basically control 80% of US lives. So if there's roughly 330 million Americans, let's run it off to 300 million. So every 3 billion, that means every single American citizen is paying them $1,000 for the right for them to basically skim off the top. Because to bring it back in, what do they actually do? They don't manufacture, they don't R&D, they don't see a patient, they don't do any logistics, they basically play the middleman. So I like to be able to use that example of insulin, because everybody can relate, because almost somebody has a family of insulin. So the inventor of insulin sold the patent for $1 because it was that important for humanity. So how is Humalog having a high price of $594 for something that costs $3 to $6 to actually manufacture? So this became a public outrage because people were dying. They couldn't afford their insulin. It was either insulin or rent. So Eli Lilly was brought in front of the U.S. Health Committee around this very issue. And they actually presented a document that we'll have on Patient Protector and we'll want to share with everybody that says, hey, the $594, we only get $135. Well, you can argue $135 the cost of $3, they're still doing quite well. Retailers, I can say that we dislike dispensing insulin because we make plus or minus $7. When it comes to predatory audits, we dislike dispensing insulin because it's harmful. Wholesalers make $20, which is like, where is it all going then? $435 go to PBMs, who would then take part of that $435 and give some back to health plans and insurance brokers, because that's what they need to do to be able to keep the systems in place. So that's pretty dark. So why is something that costs $3 go to $594? I bring it up because there's a little bit of good news there. That finally got so bad, the public outrage was so strong that they actually capped it at $35. And so the first of the year you start seeing insulin at $35 in manufacturers. So why do I bring that up? PBMs, their whole role is to lower drug cost. Well, here's a case where insulin went from $30 to $594 and only got back to $35 because of public outrage. So Patient Protector is really a place for us to organize, get the public outrage. That's going to take to have these shenanigans and the impact the American public be back to where it should be, fair economics. We are the only country in the world that has a PBM, and we have our average prescription cost, I think, is 5 times, 500% of anywhere else in the world. So it's right there in front of us. What do we need to do about it? First is to make people aware. That's why Patient Protector has education. Then we need to be heard. That's why we have the patient portal. Then we have to hold legislators accountable that enough's enough. Last year, NCP released information that $40 million was spent by PCMA, which is the PBM's lobbying group, to influence Washington. The rest of us combined for 2. So as you can see, that's David versus Goliath. So that's where money is winning right now. The way that we're going to turn this tide has to be with enough people understanding what's happening, and then calling the legislator says enough's enough.
Right.
So I've been told by a political strategist that the key thing to change is remember MOM. Money, organization, message. They are going to dominate us with money because they're the richest people in the country.
Right.
So we have to win an organization and message. Our message is compelling. This is taking care of people. This is patient care. So the last part is organization. That's why we built Patient Protectors. Can we get organized to bring us together, say enough's enough, we can change this if we combine together.
And the website is patientprotector.us. Patientprotector.us.
So it's on their shirts, okay? And so patients can go on there right now and look at your repository and all the documents right now.
Yes.
Okay, and so then what happens next? We see who the legislators are. I can actually tell you 2 legislators in Missouri, and we can't have nice things in reform in Missouri because of Express Scripts is headquartered here, right? So there's 2 legislators in Missouri, Eric Bulwerson, and I've actually had a conversation with Loretta and with their handlers, okay? And he's like, I make no apologies for supporting PBMs because they're lowering costs, which we all know is a big lie. But these legislators are like completely making up stuff. I know I will never get Eric to hear my side as a physician's office, my side as a patient, because he has already sold his soul, okay? The other one is Sam Graves in Missouri. Sam Graves' handler said the same thing. We make no apologies. We're saving rural health care. You aren't, okay? You aren't. But you've told yourself this lie so many times that now you have your people having the audacity to tell it to a physician's office who knows the truth. Okay, so now we have this repository of stuff. We have patients can upload their case, get on your portal. Then what?
Then the legislative scorecard.
Okay.
It's going to have legislator Jane Doe. She's for it. She's co-signed the bill. She's in green. Legislator John Doe, he's not for it. He has not said that he's for this. He's in red, along with his contact information, phone numbers, and emails. And let's get folks activated. I was pleasantly surprised that as little as 4 phone calls it all of a sudden it registers in the radar. So how, we can get 4 phone calls, well, how about 40, what about 400? If I may, I can talk about where this actually was born from.
Absolutely, please tell us.
So we first started getting impacted 7 years ago, and we wanted to impact legislation.
When you say we,
We have a family of pharmacies in Wisconsin, so it's all our patients.
Okay.
We're all complaining as well as we see this stuff every day.
okay,
It says we gotta do something.
you're living it,
We're living
okay.
it. So we said, how do you play this political game? So we hired a lobbyist and says, well, this is a complex issue. It's gonna take a couple of years just to be able to explain to legislators what's happening. Okay, so we spent 3 years educating. And we learned very early that you can't tell them all 50 things of the shenanigans. You gotta start out with 1, 2, or 3. So the gay clauses we mentioned earlier. Now, when you first say this, it's hard to believe. This is 2024, you can actually be coerced and extorted today. But they went and checked it out and found out it's true. What else do you have? Well, have you heard of spread pricing? Have you heard of clawbacks? Have you heard of rebates? And. So I'm very proud to say that after 3 years, we actually had 104 legislators co-sign a bill in Wisconsin, a new record. Out of 133, we had 104 co-signers. So we thought we really did our homework. So we thought, good, we're gonna get this bill passed. And what was ironic is there's 3 coalitions that are arm in arm in arm. PCMA is a lobbying group for PBMs. AHIP is the lobbying group for health plans. And then the insurance has a lobby. And those 3, if I remembered earlier about the insulin, that $435 gets split to all 3. So they're basically was brothers in arms in this scam. They just
Love
said-
that.
So they weren't coming to the table. They almost were ignoring, like, we don't have to worry about this. So after we had the co-signers, we're going, well, why aren't we getting a hearing? Because we found out you have to have a bill, it has to be presented, then you have to have a hearing, then you have to have a vote. With no hearing, there's no vote. With no vote, no bill get passed. Why aren't we getting a hearing? Well, we were told that the only way to get a hearing is you have to put pressure on the chair of the 2 health committees. Well, how are we gonna do that? They're not listening to us pharmacists. It says, well, do you think patients would be interested in letting them know? We'll find out. Well, our patients were very engaged. So we said, we're gonna start calling on Tuesday. And we said, we're gonna start at 9 o'clock. We did. By 11 o'clock, both health chairs says, okay, you're gonna get your hearing, we've had enough. Okay, so patients being activated, they were happy to be heard, and so we got a hearing. The hearing was so proud and was compelling because we had over 70 participants with 30 that never get a chance to be in the stand. Our pharmacists with their patients, arm in arm, saying this is happening every single day. We had folks afterwards says this is the most compelling one-sided hearing they've ever seen. And it's true because there's nothing more truthful than a patient that just got harmed with a pharmacist taking care of them.
We thought we were going to get it, right?
Absolutely. So are the hearings go well, we're not getting a vote. Why aren't we getting a vote? Well, because 133 legislators, 5 matter, right? Who calls for a hearing? Who calls for a vote? So the Speaker of the House, the Senate Org Committee, and the Senate Chair, basically those are the folks that have to let the process commence. And if they don't, then it doesn't matter how good a bill or how much homework you did or how much it helps people, it's just gonna sit and die. So we were starting to get concerned because it was getting close to the end of the session and we're not getting a vote. Well, do you think patients would be interested in getting a vote? We will ask. Says, Dan, do you think the hometown can generate 1,000 signatures asking for a vote? I think we can do better than that. We end up getting 11,000.
Beautiful.
And we had scrolls, we had a press conference at the Capitol with these big scrolls, and with a bunch of patient advocacy groups saying, this is us together.
Right.
So we got a vote. In the Assembly, 96-0 for, and in the Senate, it was 32-1.
Right.
Only person out of Milwaukee who unfortunately we think is,
You're Eric Burleson, right?
there you go. So,
It was incredible support.
it was incredible support.
Never ever heard of. Incredible support.
It was, now I forgot a very key part, and this is where the anger and frustration where something else had
Right.
occurred. So when it becomes obvious that we're gonna go to a vote, now all of a sudden we get called into the speaker's house to be able to negotiate the bill. Okay, this is my first time. I'm told to be excited because it means something's gonna get done. So I go into that session, 18 hours later, it was one of the worst experiences of my life.
You were there for 18 hours?
18 hours.
Wow,
for 2 days.
wow. So set the stage here. You're in a room with who?
So it's a Speaker of the House at the end table, and this big long mahogany
Conference
table
room,
in the chambers, and it's myself and lobbyists on one side, so it's a whopping 2 on this side.
Okay,
Over there's 4 people from PCMA, 4 or 5 people from AHIP, 3 or 4 people from insurance. We go through every line item of the bill.
And they came from out of state.
Some are out of state, some were in state,
Right.
etc. So they brought all the dogs, and basically the bill that used to be this much and was fairly robust, and I'm gonna call it catches up the rest of the country. At the end, hey, we get gag clauses and they have to register. Everything else died.
so tell me about that. Like, are you guys discussing it? Are they asking you, like, does this represent your constituents, your people?
It quite frankly, I felt like they ran the government.
Well, I think they do. I like to call these people interlopers. So your PBMs, your insurance companies, and certainly your lobbyists, they're doing none of the actual healthcare,
Yep.
none of the actual work, and they're making all of the money. So your pharmacists are those last line people that are doing safety and making the physician's office look good and making sure we're not causing any harm.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing the work, you're doing the work, and these interlopers are doing none of the work and they're calling all the shots. How deflating.
It was. At the end, I was told that I was supposed to feel good, and that when you're in legislation, that you don't get the whole pizza in one sitting. So don't
The
give up.
problem is that we have been baking this pizza for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, you have AHIP, PCMA, and the BUCAs coming in, and some of them from outside the state, which is kind of ironic because in the committee that I have been that helped with this bill, my understanding is that some of these people were actually telling the legislators how terrible it was that some of the organizations that were in support of this Wisconsin bill were actually from out of state. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, so let's just quickly define BUCA.
Blue Cross, United, Cigna, Aetna, and then you can also add Humana in there.
So BUCA stands for essentially the 5 big players, really 3 big
Right.
players and a couple of freebies that don't really matter. But they're against the patients, and you've got everybody that's a patient. Okay, so did they tell you right there at the end of the 18 hours that, you know what, feel good?
Yes, that's exactly what they said, is you should feel good about this, but I'm like, why? All this work was put into it, and you just told me that doing things the right way didn't work.
And it doesn't matter. Doing things the right way doesn't matter in the government. The people that we are paying our tax dollars
That's
to
right.
represent us, I don't matter, you don't matter, none of us matter.
And the other part that made this such a unique experience is once this new bill got out to actually be voted on, we've had multiple legislators angry. What happened to this bill? They weren't told, right? So they were supportive of this because they have to go back to their communities now and say, this bill just got chopped to virtually nothing.
Right.
Why? I don't know.
Well, they know.
They do know, but now it depends what side of the aisle you're on, right? So Wisconsin, unfortunately, is a super majority R in both the Senate and the Assembly. So the Ds, and this was what interesting, is it was a very bipartisan bill.
Yes, it was.
We had a D lead in the Senate and a R second, and then in the
And D
Assembly.
stands for
Democrat.
Democrat and R for Republican. Right.
And in Assembly, we had a Republican lead and a Democrat second,
Right.
because we want to show this was a unified, this is for the people, this isn't a
Right.
partisan issue. And so both sides were quite frankly angry. As a matter of fact, I'd like to do a kind of a shout out because she's kind of our hero, Mary Felskowski. At the time she was in the Assembly, and during the hearing, she actually asked, one of the PBMs came up to do their testimony, And she says, hey, in my constituency, I had this constituent that had this particular issue and this PBM treated this way, which was not positive. And the PBM responded that, hey, I can't reply for everyone, but I know that we wouldn't do that. And she basically stood up and says that that patient was me, that PBM was you. Boom. So basically it shows that, PBMs are willing to mislead and misdirect and flat out lie. And there they were caught, right there on tape.
And everyone is a patient.
And everyone is a patient. And, one of the co-authors, his wife was a victim of step therapy. That's what created the passion for this. So it's one of those where legislators are patients too. So why aren't they doing the right thing? And I actually believe that the vast majority of legislators want to do the right thing. It's just when you're big and powerful, you don't have to worry about all 133, you have to worry about the 5. So the question after this experience is like, well, are you without hope then? And this is peer groups from the country having similar experiences. So I'm very proud of our industry and patient advocacy groups that we've done an awful lot to try to educate. So this isn't a news topic anymore. And the needle is slowly going here, but it's like, wait a minute. Too many people are literally literally dying. So with that negative experience, and in January we had a horrible tragedy happen in Wisconsin.
So tell us about that.
So we have a patient who lives in Lodi, and he's asthmatic, as was his 22-year-old son. So the first of the year, their PBM, which was Optum, self-insured, decided that the Advair inhaler that they had both been on for a number of years was no longer Tier 1 formulary, which basically means that's the one that gets covered and has a low copay. So the young man goes into a chain pharmacy in Appleton, and he's told it's no longer a $15 copay, it's gonna cost over $500. Well, it's a 22-year-old, how many people can afford $500? So he goes without. That night, or the next day, his roommate has to take him to the emergency room because he has a severe attack. So now, imagine being the parents, you get a phone call, your son is in the emergency room. You drive up there, you find out now he's in the emergency room, he's in a coma. Then 24 hours later, you have to make the worst decision a parent could ever make. So of course you're heartbroken, you're angry, you're emotional. What's going on? This is an asthma inhaler. This is 2024. These things should be costing $30. Why did my boy say he was going to be charged $500? And then with that, he made a choice that cost him his life, right? And the young man had a great reputation for standing up against bullies. And his parents said the best way we can honor our son is to fight up against the bullies. So they've done an awful lot of homework. And they have a lot of passion. They want this to be solved. Nobody else should have to go through the same heartbreaking experience they have. So I heard about it because our pharmacist was able to spend some extra time on a solution, and it says, hey, let's connect. So that negative experience I had 3 or 4 years ago, and then the impact of the Schmidt-Necks and the family, it's like, okay, you can't sit back. We gotta do something. So then the patient protectors, we just gotta do it. It's work, it's a lot of work, but if we don't do it, who else will? And so they kind of help create the passion. I shouldn't say help create, they inflame the switch that says we need to do this. And the story was so compelling that it really connected with an awful lot of folks, including this wonderful lady, Camilla. And it's like, okay, there's a lot more energy. Because sometimes I think we all feel like we're fighting the battle all by ourselves.
100%.
And you just get exhausted. Then you go and say, wow, there's a lot of us that feel the same passion. So how about we start working together, share that burden, share the lows, share the experiences, and finally say, no, this is our country. There's no reason that in 2024 that we should not have a 22-year-old be able to afford an inhaler.
Right.
And mom and son are the first story in patient protector.
So this is patient 1?
Yes.
This is patient
Mom
1.
and son.
Yes.
So I think it's important, in any sort of advocacy piece, particularly when we have a negative outcome like this, to say his name. Okay? I mean, I have 2 daughters, 29 and 28. You have children. I don't know, you look kind of young. I don't know if you have children yet, but I know you do. But what is his name?
Cole. and the family would love for this to be known as Cole's Law across the country.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna do our darndest to see if we can honor that request.
I love that. I love that. And so just to kind of recap about Cole, he succumbed. He died because of Optum RX. Now, do you know if it was United Healthcare or is it just Optum? Okay.
It was healthcare.
Well, wow. This is like, who wants to have some blood on their hands? It looks like it's a PBM. I don't know how else you describe the situation, but this kind of stuff changes who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It changes who you are from the relatable situation of being parents,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's a patient and we can't access our medicines. This is not appropriate behavior, and I don't know. I'm guessing that Optum had a pretty good year last year. I'm thinking multi-billion-dollar quarterly profits. But guess what? Cole's mother and Cole's family, they're not having a good year. And it's because of Optum, which is one of the bigger PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers.
I will tell you this much, and these I learned from the ultimate payers, who aside from government, number 2 largest payer in the country are self-funded employers. From the ultimate payer in Wisconsin, I learned that in 2023, United Health Group took out of my state $1.3 billion with a B in net profit. $1.3 billion.
Wow.
That's terrible.
It is terrible. And so the word payers, that's like a made up word that means something
They pay for nothing.
So payers in this instance, that means who is writing the check. And United Healthcare isn't writing the check. United Healthcare is a middleman collecting premiums, okay, and supposedly paying healthcare claims and pharmacy claims. So that when she says payers, that's like some made up word.
That's
what
right.
it really means is who's writing the check. And it's not United Healthcare. And after all of their expenses and all of their lobbyists and all of the other nonsense and private planes for their executives and bonuses and all that other stuff, they still managed to siphon billions of dollars of quarterly profit
All of them do.
away from the taxpayers
All of
and the
them do.
patients.
Right.
Well said, and to build on that, Cole's father's plant, they're self-insured.
Interesting.
The owner of the company said if he didn't know this was happening, he'd have paid for that out of his own pocket.
Wow.
So imagine how upset he's gonna be is saying, your own plan that denied that young man that inhaler, if a different PBM would have said, wait a minute, I'm not going after the biggest rebate, I'm going after the fair price that you probably wanted for your patients, that you have no idea that made the decision on your behalf,
Yes.
that young man's alive. And the owner of the company is devastated
Of
because
course.
they feel robbed. So they hired someone that was supposed to do this for them
Right.
with the premise that they're doing what's best for the company, fiduciary duty, having
That's
no
called a
clue.
conflicted broker.
Conflict of interest, absolutely.
That's right.
So, fiduciary is one of those terms I think we've heard about what's it mean. The easiest one is it's supposed to be you're working on your client's behalf and you can't be self-interest. So it is so obtuse what's happening in healthcare. Normally an employer will hire an insurance broker. The insurance broker usually gets paid a commission on the premium, not for the employer. Are they a fiduciary? No.
Nope.
What do? They usually go to get a plan. United Health Plan or a Cigna or Aetna. Are they a fiduciary?
Nope.
No. What's their job? They have to hire a TPA, a PBM, get a hospital, doctor network, and a stop-loss carrier. In the contract between the health plan and the PBM, there's actually a clause or a paragraph that says, from the PBM, they are not a fiduciary, and if anybody ever makes them be a fiduciary, they're out of town, they're in it for themselves to make money. Now, the president of the company has no clue that's actually occurring, because a non-fiduciary is handling non-fiduciary, who actually then is hiring non-fiduciary, all the raise costs, and they all split that $435. So I go back to the inhaler and then the insulin. Why is $435 and $494 going to 3 middlemen that don't do anything, and that president of that company is actually paying the bill, and all the employees are sharing in that profiteering? So to me, that's the biggest parasitic type of event I've ever seen.
Right.
Mhm.
If they made something, did R&D, saw a patient, gave care, gave patient outcomes, it's one thing. But they do none of the above, and now it's even getting worse because they inhibit those who are trying to.
And then the interesting thing is that the bucas, now we know what that is, actually blame the self-funded employers and their SPDs, their source plan documents, their plans, and they say we're simply administering as per employer group. The thing is, the employer groups are trusting the bucas because they go in and say, hey, we have all the platforms, we have all the systems, we have all the pharmacies, we have all the formularies, we know what we're doing. And self-funded said, we have none of that, so here we are trusting you with that kind of, basically the lives of our employees. Right, so it's a lot of finger pointing, right?
And so we aren't devoid of hope. There are transparent PBMs that do it the right way. But here is the problem, and that we really have to get to. So these big three own over 80% of US lives. They're able to go to pharma and says, okay, if you want to be in my formulary, you have to give me all these kickbacks and rebates. And oh, by the way, there's also another clicker in there. You can't give my competition, my PBM competition, a fair deal. So basically, the transparent PBMs who would actually administer this as effectively, if not more, they're at a competitive disadvantage because of the big three PBMs, the dynamics they put into place. So the rebate game has gotten so far out of control, it's given the big three PBMs so much power that they basically can misuse everybody else and force people into that.
And that's what they do all day long. So I think another interesting thing, when we talk about fiduciary duties, all of a sudden, like, it's even a difficult word to say and spell. So it means I'm in charge of making the best decision for my employees based on the information I have in front of me. And that includes from a financial standpoint, from an ethical standpoint, from a morality standpoint. And so who is the fiduciary for these self-funded plans?
You know, that is the million-dollar question, but we're starting to find out legally because there now is lawsuits where employees are saying to employer, you are. So the first time CEOs, CFOs, and board of directors are saying, wow, do I really have to start looking into this? And maybe I do need to pay attention to who I'm hiring and what they do to my team. So that's where the semblance of hope is that there's gotta be enough exposure. Who is a fiduciary duty? Because eventually, who's writing the check? That is the CEO, CFO.
That's right.
There.
So we've got chief financial officers, a CFO, who have lots of things to do, okay? One of many is manage your health plan, because you're on the hook for this. So I think that we're gonna see things unravel in the courts, because kind of like they did with the 401k industry a decade ago.
Exactly.
It's only until we have enough people standing up and saying, no more, no more. You're making bad decisions for my employees, and I'm gonna do the right thing. So what's next then?
So I'm glad you brought that up because patient protector, that's the last page we're probably gonna add to it. Hey, employers, here is solutions, because that train that you just mentioned is coming.
We're
Right.
on it.
So if you're not paying attention to it, pretty soon it's gonna be a different type of outcome you're probably looking for. But there are enough positive solutions that people that wanna do it the right way. We just gotta make sure we take these last barriers of the big three having this unfair competitive advantage out of the way. So that allows for normal dynamics to take place.
Yeah, I think the ability to shop for medicine, shop for a physician, shop for healthcare, it's all been removed from the patients because they like these narrow networks of physicians that they can control, and they like an even narrower network of pharmacies they can control. And if they can't control you, then they're just gonna mandate to themselves.
Networks are a way of market suppression. That's what they are.
Networks
Are a way
of market suppression. So that means less choices.
That's right.
Too bad. That's what these insurance companies and PBMs are saying.
And price fixing. So many times when a local independent goes out of business, most folks say, well, they just couldn't compete. They couldn't buy the same as the chains. What they don't realize is that same PBM owns their own pharmacies and they force people there. You'd say, well, so what? That's still competition. But what they don't know is they'll actually pay their own pharmacy $450 and pay the local pharmacy $45.
Right.
So they purposely underpay their competition, purposely overpay themselves, and guess what they charge? The plan sponsor there. So it's a license, and we call it stealing.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's like the PBMs and the insurance companies, they're like the arsonist and the firefighter. They've
Yeah.
created this problem and now they're gonna fix it. But they're not. They're not.
That's well said.
Okay, what is your message to the PBMs? Come to the table, work with us, or is this too far gone?
You know, we work with transparent PBMs now that we believe that's a very positive relationship because at the local level, we can deliver patient care.
Sure.
Pharmacists can do so much more than what most people realize now.
I think independent pharmacies more than deliver, they excel
For sure.
at delivering patient care.
Well, it's a trusted relationship.
Absolutely.
If we trust each other, I don't need to ask you a bunch of questions because I know you're gonna do right by me as a patient.
Right.
Exactly. So an average patient will see their independent pharmacist, or go to the pharmacy 27 to 33 times a year, see their physician 3 to 6. One, just because of the expense of it as well as the challenge of getting scheduled. So independent pharmacies, we're just meant to be the first point of contact, right? Kind of a triage center.
Right.
Hey, this is happening, go see your doc, right? Or, oh, hey, this is something I can help with now. And with that, you develop an awful lot of trust. So with there's more things that can be there, because patient outcomes we always hear about, and to me it's like, oh, well, we're in the show me state, right?
Yeah, we are.
So show me, right? So part of this is, you know, the lowest cost, the cheapest medication you no longer need. So one of the things that is so basic, but 99% of people don't know about it, is drug-induced nutrient depletion. Okay, medication or pharmaceutical is designed to do something very specific and positive. But you put that into your body, it has a reaction, which creates a reaction, right? It's not a bad thing, it's just science. So if we know what the deficiency is, we ought to replete it, right? Because so many times, one medication can turn into many.
Sure.
So, we're like statins, right? Stops acid reflux. Well, but if you're on it for more than 3 or 4 weeks, it starts doing a lot of other things you really don't want it to do. So you probably want to fix that sooner than later. Same with statins. Okay, depletes the body of CoQ10, now you're going to be tired and achy. Well, if you replete it with, now it's got to be quality CoQ10, because as we know, there's an awful lot of bad actors in the supplement industry.
Sure.
So for every bad actor, that doesn't mean the science is incorrect. So now it's like you have to go to folks you trust that says what is the proper science to have proper supplementation that does have a positive impact on your body. Who do you trust for that anymore? That's the part that you have to go back to, who do you trust, and then they have to earn it. And that's where we're big fans of independent pharmacies, because that's what we do every day. We're working with pharmaceuticals, we know what drug-induced nutrient depletion is, here's what actually works. So as seen on TV or when, and I'm trying to be positive here, but the distribution system matters.
Yeah.
If you're going to a place that has 500 lineal feet of 50 different types of vitamins and nobody with therapeutic trust explain the difference between product A and product B, that's probably not a good thing, because it's a race to the bottom. To go someplace that says, okay, I see you're deficient here, here is the methodology with proper science, mechanisms of action, dosages, making sure the right certificates analysis, make sure whatever you do is actually going to work like a medicine. We call them nutraceuticals, not supplements. So nutraceuticals actually have as tight or nearly as tight of specs that have to be manufactured. So supplements you and I can make in our bathtub. Nutraceuticals need to be done like a pharmaceutical, only now it's with different plants, not the laser beams that need FDA approval. So a lot of folks don't even know that drug-induced nutrient deficiency exists. If they did and replete it, we actually improve patient outcomes quite a bit. That's how we can help the healthcare system. That's our cup of tea, right? That's why biochemistry is our gig, but now we don't get a chance to utilize that. Because pharmacists in a lot of cases have been reduced to lick, stick, and pick. Do you have any questions? It's like, no, so much more than that. So, you probably know this, 40, 50 years ago, we did the prescription, right? Doctors diagnosed, we filled the script. Before that, we were mini triage centers. Hey, here's a scratch, here's some Neosporin, or no, this is something, go see a doc, go to ER. So we were just part of the team, right? And then we would direct you to other key teammates as you needed. Unfortunately, PBMs have kind of turned everybody into
Widgets,
fast food
filling
chain.
widgets.
There you go.
That's all, they're trying to do that to the physicians. They've been, pretty successful at doing it to everyone for a really long time. I hope the gig is up. I hope that the can of worms is so open and everyone is so related to this. But how can it be in 2024 that in the show me state, in Missouri here, I have 2 legislators who I already know their names and I've already talked to their teams, and they are not wanting anything to do with me and my patients because they've already been bought and paid for. Like, this is reality. This is how these PBMs are.
So go back to politics about mom, money, organization, message. Now I talk about the business of politics. So we found, I'm gonna call it the good, the bad, the ugly. There are some folks who are legitimately wanting to do the right thing. They are worth their weight in gold. Other folks are doing it for other reasons. So they're awful hard to turn. So the key is how do we have enough of the right
good
folks
ones
there? And our understanding is they want to be on the right side of an issue. So because for the last 5-6 years it's been so unknown, you could live in the dark and not have any political ramifications. We're hoping to do with Patient Protector and all the work we're doing with patient advocacy groups that says, no, here's life, this is reality. Once you know reality, how can you possibly stand up for these bad actors, right? So we believe that the more the truth is told, the more that it'd be impossible to stay on that side of wrong.
I love that.
So I would like to say to the coalitions that we collaborate with, the CSRO, the Coalition of State Rheumatology Organizations, the American College of Rheumatology, our friends at ATAP, ATAP, and everyone else, please come and join us with patientprotector.us.
I love that. Final thoughts.
Thank you for sharing and allowing us to be
Of
able
course.
to this, and we're open to feedback. If it's like we should have another page for retaliation, we've been asked that. We think that's a great idea. So we're humble. We're doing this because we think it's the right thing.
Yes.
We would love to be able to get feedback saying, here's what else we should be thinking about doing, and then bringing the resources to do so.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you are all so passionate that you came to St. Louis, Missouri for a protest against Express Scripts. You're doing the right thing, and in God we trust. Everybody else bring proof. Don't tell me, you show me. And you guys are showing up and you're doing it, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good time.